Welcome to this deep dive into T-Rock contracting.
Yeah.
You've provided us with a ton of information on this company,
Hmm.
financial statements, meeting transcripts, internal documents,
Yeah.
even marketing analysis.
It's quite a bit.
It's like a detective's case file.
It certainly is. And we're here to sift through the evidence and help you understand whether T-Rock's business model is built on solid ground or if those ambitious growth plans are a house of cards.
Love that.
Yeah,
So let's start with the basics.
sure.
How's T-Rock actually making money?
Yeah.
Their revenue jumped from $10 million in 2022 to $17 million in 2023.
Okay.
That's a pretty impressive growth spurt. They
Right.
seem to be expanding their services, branching out to new areas, and laser focused on markets like multifamily housing.
They are indeed. But those numbers are based on their old cash basis accounting method.
Okay.
They're transitioning to accrual accounting,
Interesting.
which is interesting because it suggests they're aiming for something bigger.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this accounting shift.
Okay.
Why would they go through the hassle?
Well, imagine you're trying to attract investors or secure a big loan.
Okay.
They want to see a clear picture of your profitability, not just when the cash comes in,
Right.
but when you actually earn it.
Yeah.
Accrual accounting gives a more accurate view, especially for a company with big growth aspirations like T-Rock.
Makes sense. They're laying the groundwork for serious expansion.
Yeah.
But hold on.
Yeah.
There's this mention of a large accounts receivable balance rolling over from 2022 to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Are they having trouble getting paid?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It could point to some hiccups in their collections process.
Okay.
And as they scale up, managing cash flow effectively becomes even more critical.
It's like juggling. The more balls you add, the harder it gets to keep them all in the air.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to costs.
Okay.
This is where things got really interesting for me. T-Rock's direct material and labor costs as a percentage of revenue actually went down significantly between 2022 and 2023. How did they pull that off?
It might seem counterintuitive during a growth phase, right?
Yeah.
But the transcripts reveal some clues.
Okay.
They've been negotiating better deals with vendors, streamlining project management,
Okay.
and even strategically choosing projects that optimize costs.
So they're not just growing, they're becoming more efficient.
Exactly.
The transcripts even had specifics like discussions about equipment rentals and hotel expenses fluctuating depending on the project.
Exactly. It shows they're thinking critically about how each project impacts their bottom line.
Yeah.
However, there are hints of past accounting practices being a bit messy,
Uh-oh.
with the expenses lumped together in ways that make it hard to analyze trends.
So maybe some of the cost savings are just a result of getting their financial house in order.
It's possible.
Still, it's good that they're catching these issues now,
Yeah.
especially with their sights set on such ambitious growth.
Absolutely. As their business gets more complex, accurate, and insightful, accounting becomes essential.
Yeah.
It's like upgrading your navigation system before a long road trip.
Now, buckle up, because we're about to enter some seriously fascinating territory.
Okay.
We're talking about those unusual expenses
Hmm.
that reveal a lot about how T-Rock operates.
Okay.
Get ready for some head-scratching moments.
I always love the quirky details.
Yeah.
They often paint the most vivid picture of a company's culture
Right.
and decision-making process.
Okay, first up,
Yeah.
we have a fuel other category that includes a huge invoice for past rent payments.
Oh, wow.
Talk about creative accounting.
It seems there was a unique situation with the owner's other business,
Okay.
which also uses some of the same vendors.
Oh.
This points to a potential blurring of lines between the two entities.
Okay.
Something to keep in mind as we dig deeper.
And then there are the TR1 expenses.
Mhm.
It turns out the owner's other company,
Right.
the TR1,
Yep.
shares some vendors with T-Rock, potentially causing mix-ups.
A classic case of the challenges that can arise when an entrepreneur is juggling multiple businesses.
Yeah.
Keeping those financial boundaries clear is crucial, both for tax purposes and for getting an accurate picture of each company's performance.
And wait, it gets even better. We have a marketing other category that includes,
Yeah.
and I'm not making this up,
Okay.
hunting trips, charitable donations,
Right.
and even one-off client projects.
Now that's what I call a personalized approach to client relationship management.
So interesting.
It certainly raises questions about whether there's a clear distinction between business and personal expenses,
Yeah.
and how they're measuring the return on these,
Right.
shall we say, unconventional marketing activities.
And then there's the apartment association membership categorized as a marketing expense.
Interesting.
Are they wooing apartment complexes with fancy events, or is this just another accounting quirk?
It highlights a key question for you to consider.
Mm.
Is their expense categorization driven by strategy or simply convenience?
Right.
Understanding the why behind these choices is crucial for assessing T-Rock's overall financial savvy.
So with all these accounting curiosities, how can we get a handle on T-Rock's actual financial performance?
Yeah.
Well, despite the limitations of their previous cash basis accounting, they did see a substantial jump in net income from 2022 to 2023.
Which is a positive sign. But remember, without understanding their true profit margins,
Yeah.
taking into account all these nuanced expenses,
Right.
it's like judging a book by its cover.
We need to read between the lines to get the full story.
Absolutely.
And speaking of a captivating story,
Yeah.
T-Rock has this audacious goal of reaching $150 million in revenue with a 30% profit margin.
Ambition is admirable,
Right.
but what's more important is a viable roadmap to get there.
Yeah.
The documents we have outline several strategies, expanding geographically, targeting high-revenue zip codes, and potentially bringing labor in-house.
They're also talking about developing super robust standard operating procedures and training programs. It seems like they're trying to build a more scalable and efficient operation,
Yeah.
which is essential for that kind of growth.
These are all smart moves, but execution is key.
Right.
As we delve further, we'll be looking for clues about their ability to implement these changes effectively and navigate the inevitable challenges of rapid growth.
It's like building a rocket ship while it's already blasting off.
A perfect analogy.
They need to be incredibly skilled pilots to pull that off.
And speaking of skills,
Yeah.
let's talk about T-Rock's marketing and sales strategies.
Okay.
Referrals seem to be their bread and butter,
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking to formalize that with a structured program.
Smart move, leveraging what's already working.
Yeah.
But they also acknowledge the need to up their digital marketing game.
Okay.
With SEO optimization, targeted ads, and creating compelling content.
They're not just relying on word of mouth.
Yeah.
They've actually developed detailed customer personas for decision makers in multifamily and commercial construction.
So they're taking a data-driven approach, which is encouraging.
It is.
And they even went a step further with a mystery shopper exercise to get a first-hand look at their sales process and customer experience.
That shows they're willing to take a critical look at their own practices.
Now let's shift gears and talk about the people behind the scenes.
Okay.
T-Rock seems to be firing on all cylinders when it comes to growth and understanding their market.
Right.
But what about their approach to people development and company culture?
That's where things get really intriguing.
That's what we'll uncover as we delve further into T-Rock's human resources practices.
Okay.
We'll be examining their strengths and weaknesses to see if their culture can truly support those sky-high ambitions.
All right.
Stay tuned for part 2.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into T-Rock contracting.
Yeah.
In part 1,
Uh-huh.
we uncovered some fascinating insights into
Right.
their revenue growth,
Right.
their sometimes quirky expenses,
Yeah.
and even a glimpse into their approach to employee development with that unique PPF program.
Yes, we've started to piece together the puzzle, but there's still much more to uncover.
Okay.
To get a clearer picture of T-Rock's financial health and stability,
Yeah.
let's turn our attention to their balance sheet.
Okay, the balance sheet.
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't financial whizzes,
Sure.
what exactly is a balance sheet?
Right.
And why should we care?
Think of the balance sheet as a snapshot of T-Rock's financial position
Okay.
at a specific point in time.
Got it.
It shows us their assets, what they own,
Yeah.
their liabilities,
Okay.
what they owe,
Mm-hmm.
and the owner's equity,
Okay.
their stake in the company.
Okay.
Analyzing these elements can give us valuable clues about their ability to manage debt,
Right.
fund operations, and weather financial storms.
So it's not just about how much money they're making.
Right.
It's about how well they're managing their resources overall.
Exactly.
And remember,
Yeah.
we're still dealing with that transition from cash basis to accrual accounting. So how does that impact our interpretation of the balance sheet?
It's a valid point.
Yeah.
Some figures might not be perfectly aligned
Okay.
due to the ongoing shift.
Right.
However, we can still glean valuable insights by examining the key components.
Let's start with assets.
Okay.
What kind of financial firepower does T-Rock have?
Well,
What do they own that contributes to their overall value?
their assets include things like equipment,
Okay.
vehicles,
Hmm.
any real estate they own,
Yeah.
and even things like accounts receivable,
Okay.
the money owed to them by customers for completed projects.
Ah, yes. Those accounts receivable.
Right.
We saw a pretty hefty balance from previous years.
Huh?
That could be a double-edged sword.
It could.
It's an asset, but only if they can collect those payments effectively.
Exactly. Now, let's flip the coin and look at liabilities.
Okay.
What are T-Rock's obligations?
Right.
Do they have outstanding loans,
Mm.
unpaid bills,
Yeah.
or any other debts hanging over their heads?
So this tells us who they owe money to and how much. It's like looking at the bills to pay pile on their desk.
Yeah.
It's not always pretty,
Right.
but it's essential information.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Liabilities can range from short-term obligations like supplier invoices
Okay.
to long-term debts like bank loans.
Got it.
Understanding their debt structure is crucial for assessing their financial risk.
So we've got assets on one side,
Mhm.
liabilities on the other,
Yeah.
and then there's the owner's equity,
Right.
their stake in the company. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Precisely. Equity represents the value remaining
Okay.
after subtracting liabilities from assets.
I got it.
It reflects the owner's investment in the business
Yeah.
and any accumulated profits.
So after examining all these elements,
Yeah.
what's the verdict on T-Rock's financial health
Well-
based on their balance sheet?
Let's see.
Do they seem to be in a good position to handle those ambitious growth plans?
Well, their cash position appears healthy, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
It means they have readily available funds to cover immediate expenses
Mm-hmm.
and seize opportunities.
Right.
However, that significant accounts receivable balance from previous years
Yeah.
does raise some concerns.
Like having a full tank of gas, but a warning light blinking on the dashboard.
Uh-huh.
You can keep going for a while,
Yeah.
but it's a sign that something needs attention.
A great analogy. It suggests they might need to strengthen their collections process
All right.
to ensure a steady flow of cash,
Right.
especially as they scale up.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And we can't forget that they're aiming to hit $150 million in revenue
Right.
with a 30% profit margin.
That's a big jump.
That's a massive jump from where they are now.
It is.
Can their current financial position support that level of growth?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
To achieve that kind of expansion, they'll need to significantly ramp up their operations,
Mm-hmm.
which requires substantial investments and careful financial management. It's not just about having a healthy balance sheet today.
Yeah.
It's about having a balance sheet that can fuel their future growth.
So they need a financial engine that can handle the extra weight and speed.
Precisely.
What are some of the potential roadblocks they might encounter as they try to scale up?
One challenge is managing their working capital,
Okay.
which is essentially the difference between their current assets
Mm-hmm.
and current liabilities.
All right.
It's the fuel that keeps their day-to-day operations running.
So it's not just about having cash on hand.
Right.
It's about making sure that cash is flowing in and out efficiently
Exactly.
to cover expenses, invest in growth, and handle unexpected bumps in the road.
Exactly. As they take on larger projects and expand their workforce,
Yeah.
their working capital needs will increase.
Yeah.
If they're not diligently managing those accounts receivable,
Mm-hmm.
they could run into a cash crunch that hinders their ability to grow.
That's a scenario they definitely want to avoid. Are there any other financial hurdles they might need to overcome?
Another potential challenge is managing their debt levels.
Okay.
If they need to take on additional loans to finance their expansion,
Yeah.
that increases their financial risk
Right.
and impacts their profitability.
Oh.
They'll need to carefully weigh the costs and benefits of leveraging debt to fuel their growth.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
They need to accelerate, but not at the expense of stability.
Right.
Now let's shift gears and look beyond their current financial snapshot to their vision for the future.
Okay.
What can you tell us about T-Rock's financial projections? Are they realistic, or are they reaching for the stars without a solid plan?
Well, their projected goal of reaching $150 million in revenue with a 30% profit margin
Mm-hmm.
is certainly ambitious.
Right.
To get there, they've broken down their growth plan into phases,
Okay.
each representing a significant leap in revenue and operational scale.
Okay, so they have a roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
but what are the key assumptions underpinning these projections?
Are they just hoping for the best, or are they grounding their forecasts in reality?
One key assumption is their ability to effectively penetrate new markets.
Okay.
They're planning significant geographic expansion,
Mhm.
which means winning over new customers in unfamiliar territories.
Right.
This requires a deep understanding of those markets, adapting their strategies,
Yeah.
and building trust with new clients.
It's not just about replicating what worked in their current location.
Right.
They need to be chameleons,
Yeah.
adapting their approach to thrive in different environments.
Exactly. Another crucial assumption is their ability to attract and retain skilled labor.
We've seen how critical their people are to their success,
Mhm.
especially with their unique PPF program.
Yeah.
They need to ensure they have the right talent in place to execute those ambitious plans.
Indeed. They'll also need to account for potential rising costs, material prices, labor costs,
Yeah.
even things like fuel and insurance can fluctuate, impacting their bottom line.
Yeah.
Their projections need to factor in these variables
Right.
and demonstrate a plan to mitigate risks.
It's like navigating a course through unpredictable waters.
Uh-huh.
They need to be prepared for rough seas
Right.
and have a sturdy ship that can handle the waves.
And let's not forget about the competitive landscape.
Right.
The construction industry is fiercely competitive,
Yeah.
and T-Rock will need to differentiate themselves and
Yeah.
prove their value proposition to win over clients.
They can't just rely on being the cheapest option.
Right.
They need to offer something special,
Yeah.
whether it's superior quality, faster turnaround times,
Right.
exceptional customer service, or a combination of all these things.
Precisely. And finally, we can't ignore the potential impact of external factors,
Okay.
things like regulatory changes or economic downturns.
Right.
These are events outside their control
Yeah.
that could significantly affect their growth trajectory. Their projections need to demonstrate that they've considered these possibilities
Okay.
and have contingency plans in place.
So it's not just about having a rosy picture of the future.
Right.
It's about being prepared for the unexpected twists and turns that inevitably arise.
Yeah.
Now, with all these factors in mind,
Uh-huh.
how confident are you in T-Rock's ability to achieve their financial goals?
Based on the information we have,
Yeah.
their projections seem ambitious,
Okay.
but not entirely out of reach.
Right.
They have a clear vision,
Mm-hmm.
a detailed roadmap,
Yeah.
and a willingness to invest in growth.
Okay.
However, their success hinges on their ability to address those potential challenges we've discussed,
Right.
strengthening their financial management,
Yeah.
attracting and retaining top talent,
Mm-hmm.
adapting to new markets,
Right.
and navigating a competitive landscape.
It's a tall order, but they've shown signs of being able to adapt and innovate. Now, let's shift our focus from the numbers to the people who will ultimately make or break T-Rock's success.
Right.
In part 3, we'll delve deeper into their human resources practices,
Mhm.
examining their approach to building a company culture that can support those lofty ambitions.
Oh,
Stay tuned.
this is good.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into T-Rock contracting. We've examined their financials, scrutinized their growth plans, and now it's time to explore the heart of their operation, their people.
You're right. Focusing solely on financials is like looking at a blueprint without considering the people who will actually build the structure. T-Rock's success ultimately hinges on their ability to attract, develop, and retain talented individuals.
Exactly. And we got a glimpse of their unique approach to employee development in part 1, the Personal, Professional, and Financial Goal Planning, or PPF. It's definitely not your typical corporate program.
It certainly sets them apart. Encouraging employees to set goals in all areas of their lives shows a commitment to their well-being beyond just their role in the company.
But as we discussed, the big question is it truly effective? Does this PPF program translate into a more motivated, engaged workforce, or is it just a feel-good initiative that doesn't move the needle?
To answer that, we need to go beyond the surface and examine how PPF is implemented and integrated into T-Rock's overall company culture.
Let's dive into those details. What have we learned from the documents about how PPF is actually put into practice?
Well, it seems like they have a structured process. Employees set goals in each of the 3 areas, personal, professional, and financial, and they have regular check-ins and reviews with their managers to track progress. This suggests a level of seriousness and commitment to the program.
It's not just a box-ticking exercise. They're putting in the effort to make it a tangible part of the employee experience. But are employees actually buying in? Do they see PPF as a valuable tool for their own growth, or does it feel forced?
That's the key question. Unfortunately, the documents don't provide direct insights into employee perceptions of PPF. We can speculate, but without hearing from the employees themselves, it's difficult to gauge the program's true impact on morale and motivation.
It would be fascinating to get their perspective. Do they feel like their personal goals are supported? Does PPF help them feel more connected to T-Rock's mission?
These are crucial questions for T-Rock's leadership to consider. If PPF is going to be a true driver of employee engagement and retention, it needs to be more than just a program. It needs to be woven into the fabric of their company culture.
So PPF aside, what else can you tell us about T-Rock's company culture? We know from their marketing materials that they tout teamwork, innovation, and customer focus. But are those just buzzwords, or is there evidence that those values are truly embedded in how they operate?
Well, that's where things get a bit more complicated. While PPF shows a unique and potentially positive aspect of their culture, the documents also reveal some areas where T-Rock's HR practices seem to be lagging behind their growth ambitions.
Okay, I'm all ears. Where do they need to step up their game?
One area that needs attention is their employee maturity model.
Yeah.
They have a basic framework in place, but it lacks clarity and doesn't seem to be effectively integrated into their overall people development strategy.
So imagine you're an ambitious employee at T-Rock. You're eager to grow and advance within the company, but the path forward is murky. You're not sure what skills you need to develop or what milestones you need to hit to reach the next level. That's a recipe for frustration and potentially high turnover.
Exactly. A well-defined maturity model provides a clear roadmap for employee development, outlining the skills, experience, and behaviors required at each level. This helps employees understand expectations, set goals, and chart a course for their career progression within the company.
It also benefits T-Rock by ensuring they have a pipeline of talent ready to step into leadership roles as they grow.
Precisely. And speaking of talent management, it seems they haven't been effectively tracking why employees leave the company. This is a missed opportunity to learn from their mistakes and improve their retention efforts.
It's like having a leaky bucket and not bothering to figure out where the holes are. You're constantly losing valuable water, or in this case, valuable employees, without understanding why.
Exactly. There's so many tools they could be using to gather feedback and understand employee sentiment, exit interviews, stay interviews, pulse surveys. These insights can be incredibly valuable for identifying areas for improvement and creating a work environment where people want to stay and thrive.
They're missing out on a treasure trove of information that could help them build a stronger, more resilient workforce. What else stands out as a potential red flag?
They also need to implement formal performance reviews and a clear disciplinary process. Right now, those things seem to be handled in a more ad hoc, subjective way, which can create inconsistency, potential bias, and even legal issues down the line.
So imagine you're an employee and you're not getting clear, consistent feedback on your performance. You're not sure what your manager expects of you, and you're left wondering how your contributions are being evaluated. That's a recipe for anxiety and disengagement.
A structured approach to performance management with regular reviews, clear goals, and constructive feedback provides clarity, fairness, and a foundation for continuous improvement.
It's about creating a culture of open communication and accountability where everyone understands how their work contributes to the company's success.
Another area for improvement is documenting their onboarding and exit procedures. Right now, those processes seem to lack consistency, which can create a negative experience for employees both when they join and when they leave the company.
First impressions matter, and so do last impressions. A well-designed onboarding process helps new hires feel welcomed, supported, and quickly integrated into the team. And a smooth exit process ensures that departing employees feel respected and valued, even as they move on to new opportunities.
And let's not forget about the importance of training mentorship and knowledge transfer. T-Rock seems to be relying heavily on on-the-job training, which can be effective for some things, but it needs to be complemented with more structured development programs.
Especially as they grow and bring in new people who might not have the same level of experience. Investing in professional development is crucial for building a skilled and adaptable workforce.
And it's not just about technical skills. They need to develop their leaders, foster a culture of mentorship, and ensure that knowledge is effectively shared within the organization.
So it sounds like T-Rock has some work to do to create a company culture that can truly support their ambitious goals. They have this interesting and potentially powerful PPF program, but there are also some significant gaps in their HR practices that could hinder their growth.
It's a common challenge for rapidly expanding companies. They often prioritize driving revenue and scaling operations, but they neglect the infrastructure needed to support their most valuable asset, their people.
But here's the crucial takeaway for you. T-Rock can't achieve their ambitious goals without addressing these issues. A disengaged or underskilled workforce will ultimately limit their potential. They need to shift their mindset from viewing HR as a cost center to recognizing it as a strategic investment in their future success.
It's about creating a virtuous cycle. Investing in your people leads to a more engaged and productive workforce, which drives better business results, which allows you to further invest in your people. It's a win-win.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into T-Rock contracting, what's the key question you want our listener to ponder? What should they be considering as they evaluate T-Rock's prospects for success?
We've seen a company with impressive revenue growth, a bold vision, and a willingness to embrace unconventional approaches. But we've also uncovered some potential vulnerabilities, particularly in their financial management and HR practices. They have the potential to achieve great things, but they need to address these weaknesses to build a truly sustainable and thriving business.
It's like a high-performance race car with a few loose screws. It has the power to speed ahead, but those loose screws could cause a major breakdown if they're not addressed.
A perfect analogy. The question for you, dear listener, is this. Can T-Rock tighten those screws and navigate the complexities of rapid growth to achieve their ambitious goals? Or will those weaknesses ultimately hold them back? We've provided you with the pieces of the puzzle. Now it's up to you to assemble them and draw your own conclusions.
Stay curious, and thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive in TV.